On this episode of the Veteran Business Community Podcast, we're talking all things biodiesel with Morgan Hunter from 34MJ. Really interesting conversation. I didn't know that you could get oil from the fish and chip shop and then convert it to biodiesel and sell it to the farmer. And then you can get grain off the farmer and convert it into cooking oil and give it back to the shop. So it sounds like a pretty relatively simple circular economy. But what are the real considerations for the Australian strategic position here, particularly noting that we have only a month of fuel reserves? So come and have a listen to Morgan Hunter from 34MJ, and let's talk all things biodiesels. On this episode of the Veteran Business Community Podcast, I'm chatting with Morgan Hunter from 34MJ. G'day, Morgan.
G'day, Pete. Thanks for having me.
Mate, it's a pleasure. First of all, where in the world are you?
I'm in Adelaide.
Mate, tell me, where did you grow up?
So, always born and bred here in Adelaide, so haven't really moved very far.
Brilliant, mate. I'm always interested in terms of why people join the army or what their connection is to the military. Why did you get involved?
I guess when you grow up watching all the action movies, my brother was always wanting to be in the army, so I just tagged along, watched all those movies. He ended up not joining, and then would have been late, would have been through university, but finished university. I'm missing something in my life, and a friend just joined the Air Force full time, and I went, I talked about joining the reserves many years ago with mates, and might as well give it a go. I just went to those silly youth sessions and put my application in and joined up. So I firstly, put my hand up to be a combat engineer.
Yep.
And then you got a degree, so you have to go officer. I'm like, okay, went through that process, didn't get through. So I went back to being through the enlisted program as a combat engineer. So I got through. The reason my main reason for joining combat engineers was like power and water. So that was the things that interested me in the army, was like how to create.
Plus they're pretty sexy, mate. Combat engineers. Come on.
Yeah. So, and my grandpa back in, was a combat engineer, part of the Royal Engineers from the UK in World War II. So it was a bit of a tie back there. The funny thing is, he didn't talk about the war at all until I enlisted and became part of the army. And then he started opening up about his stories. I'm like, why don't you tell us all these things?
Yeah.
But enlisted in 2010. Did the basic training. Went to School of Engineers
up in Liverpool, Holsworthy there.
Holsworthy.
Yeah, Moorebank actually.
So they just closed Moorebank down. So
okay,
So for the reserve side anyway. So the full times were still there. So we were based over at Holsworthy, and we did all our dem stuff over in Moorebank though. So which was fun.
Now for everyone who's I just want to grab you there. I want to come back to the army stuff, but you're an engineer. Yeah, you've got a part-time career. I just want to, for anyone out there, tell us about 34MG first, because I want to plant the seed on 34MG. Then I want to come back to how you got there.
Yeah. So 34MG is a renewable fuels company. So we manufacture equipment to make fuel that farmers, communities can use as a direct replacement for diesel fuel. So our units can be thrown into the bush or on a farm, remote location, can grow a crop, put that crop in, and get diesel fuel out. So it's all
It's
fully
brilliant.
containerized. Yeah.
It's brilliant. So stick around because I want to understand more about 34mg and how that came about. But how did you end up in God's Call Ramey, mate? Ade at Mare.
Yeah, so I did 8 years as an enlisted combat engineer. I, only got to Lance Corporal, but acting sergeant. In the reserve world, you wear multiple hats. So
And don't say only, mate. They're pretty important
yeah,
jobs.
yeah. And one of my guys was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go officer." I'm like, "Really? I don't want you to lead me, like." So I was thinking, well, there wasn't actually any more progress that where I wanted to go in the combat engineers. So I thought I want to get into planning and all that sort of stuff. So I thought, yep, I'll put my hand up to be an officer.
Yep.
So back to the beginning with all the new, recruits. I'm like, first day back, I'm like, I need to get back out of here. I need to do my courses as soon as possible. Because it's like, oh, this is draining my morale just being around these people again. So I smashed my courses out
I love
within
that.
a year, well,
Yeah.
within 6 months, because my wife decided to, give birth at the very beginning of the year. I'm like, oh, I better not go on courses while.
Not too much.
Yeah. So did a year, and then graduation ceremony. They went, all right, here you go. You're going to be Ramey. So
So you didn't make a choice about it. They just sent you to Ramey.
it was my second preference. I wanted to go back to engineers because that's all I knew at that stage. But they went, oh, you got a mechatronics degree. You got to go to Ramey, and so yeah, there I am. So what's that? 6 years as Ramey an officer. And it's probably a better choice now looking back, where I fit into things. There's more great opportunity for me being a technical Ramey officer than I would have been as just a general service officer as a combat engineer. So,
well, mate, I was introduced to you by Shannon Lemansky,
yeah,
good lad. He's Ramey as well, isn't he?
yeah.
Yeah, good Ramey lads. But again, birds of a feather, or actually, you technical guys. I'm a GSO Baker Ramey guy, so I'm not putting myself in the same intellectual group than you guys are. But I'm really fascinated about this business. If you've got 34mj, so first of all, what does 34mj stand for?
34 megajoules basically. So exactly how it's written. Engineering me. It's like, oh yeah, 34 megajoules is the energy surplus from making biodiesel from a grain crop. So for all the energy that you put in planting it, harvesting it, manufacturing the fuel, you end up with 34 megajoules more energy than you started with, basically. So,
okay, so the first thing that I think of there is the principle of perpetual motion. Is it that you get more out than you put in? The simpleton in me again is thinking about the little Homer thing in when he puts the thing down that presses the key while he's at work. But let's just go back. The energy in the seed itself, planting the seed, growing the crops, the fertilizer, and the harvesting, you actually get a 34 millijoule. What is it?
Megajoules, yeah.
Megajoules are surplus when you convert it back into biodiesel.
Yeah. So if you look at it from the other way around, so let's look at mineral diesel.
Yep.
It takes all this energy to pull it out of the ground, refine it, and make you 1 liter of diesel, right?
Ship it around the world. Yep.
Yeah. So you literally, in that concept, you use 1 liter of diesel equivalent of energy to manufacture 0.8 of a litre of diesel.
Hang on a sec. That's a negative return. Goes backward.
Yeah.
Okay, so
because you're using different energy. So you're using some coal, you're using like gas, so yeah.
So tell me how it works, because you can either get your canola oil, is that right?
Yeah, canola oil, yeah.
Can you use other crops like maize and other big green crops, or is it more what's the piece you're harvesting? Is it the seed head?
Yeah, it's the seed, and it has to be an oil type seed. So
Yep.
Canola, mustard, safflower, sunflowers, soybeans.
Anything with a high oil content.
Yeah.
Right, so that's one way you can get it. Like, is actually go out cropping, harvest it, get it from there. What about recyclables? Like fish and chip shop oil or something like that.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing at the moment. Doing a circular economy project, helping restaurants. We go to restaurants, collect their waste oils, supply them new cooking oils from farm, and then we process their waste oils into fuel and sell that back to the farmers to use.
Hold a sec. So you're getting the fresh oil from the farm and selling it to the restaurants.
Yeah.
And then you're taking the dirty oil from the restaurants, converting it back into diesel for the farms.
Yes. Yeah.
It sounds so simple, but it obviously isn't. What kind of technologies are involved in the processing?
So once we get the oil, when we get the waste oil, it's like cleaning it, and then there's a chemical process to make it more stable.
Yep.
Because the quality of the fuel is directly related to the quality of oil that you're putting in, right?
Yes.
So we need to make sure that used oil is of a uniform specification, say. As less water as possible, less acidic, because when you heat and cool oil, the acid values change.
Yep.
And get rid of all the burnt carbon chips out of the oil.
Literally the hot chips.
Yeah. And then once we got a decent quality of used cooking oil, we then put it through our own technology. So we patented that technology. Yep. We developed it our own, where it processes the oil into biodiesel or the diesel replacement.
Yep.
Through a process. That's all done at room temperature and low pressure, which is unique in our system. So
again, mate, you're gonna have to excuse me from asking some pretty low level questions here, but can you stick? I've got a BMW X5 back there. Can I stick biodiesel into that?
Yep. So I've run it on my common rail turbo diesels.
Yeah.
So it's a direct replacement. There is some nuances about how much or how old your vehicle is.
Yep.
But because what happens with mineral diesel, it puts a varnish layer on all your fuel stuff over time, and that sort of like clogging your arteries, right? So whilst biodiesel is a good solvent, it strips all that crud out of your tanks and out of your fuel lines.
So it's actually better for you than mineral diesel?
Yeah, in the long run it is. But in the short term, if you go, I've got a 5-year-old car, I'm going to put 100% biodiesel in it. All that, crud
it's going to go in your system somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So it ends up in your fuel filter straight away.
Got it. So yeah.
So we recommend depending on how old your vehicle is a slow transition to 100% biodiesel.
Is it cheaper than mineral diesel? Like when I drive down the road and see the servo and it's $1.80, $2 a litre?
Our aim is to be on par with mineral diesel.
Yep.
At the moment, we're about 20% more expensive.
Yep.
whilst there's people that make it over in New South Wales and import it, and they're selling it for around the $4, $4.50 a litre mark.
What's their market that they're selling it to, that the consumer's happy to pay that premium?
More niche industries and ones that are trying to mitigate their carbon usage. So,
got it. Now, when we're looking at the current mineral oil prices, but just based on the crude oil barrel price, whatever it is around the world, at the moment it's 20% dearer. But again, is the pricing mechanism for organic oil much more stable?
Yeah, once you start using the waste oil streams, it's pretty much stable. It would fluctuate with some of the other ingredients you need to add and filters and all that, but it's pretty much pretty much flat for like 2 to 3 year periods.
Yep.
So,
mate, what about can you create biodiesel straight from the canola oil on the farm, or is that more of a premium product or a more expensive product, and that's why you put it into the food and then convert the waste into the fuel because it's a secondary product or a reclaimable product?
So originally that's what we had done. We developed our machines for farmers, right?
Yeah.
So they could grow a fuel crop similar to what their grandpas used to do. So back in their day, horse and cart, half of their farm, they would plant oats for the horses and cattle, and half would be planted to sell.
Got it.
So, and now the changeover with, tractors, we say, well, you can grow 10% of your land will fuel you for a whole year. So instead of 50-50, it's now 10-90 if you want to go that way. But it's that opportunity cost of, okay, I can sell that for greater value than the diesel price at the moment. So that's where it becomes a bit of a gray area if you're not getting that additional revenue from that 10% land. But we're also working with different ways of using unviable land for farmers to crop a fuel crop for them. So we've done some projects with wineries using the rows in between the vines and
planting soybean, for example, between the vines and then harvesting them on the way out. Yeah.
And then can make fuel out of that. So it's not affecting their main crops, but it's an additional saving and that for
them. Just coming back again to the market forces around the price of the bean or the pea or the legume, whatever it is that you're harvesting. Is there a time where market forces around the world, whether they be consumer protection, like tariffs and all of this, that puts a plunge in the cost of the bean and then it actually becomes more viable? Because it seems to me like a big market force driver as to whether it's better off converting it into grain or whatever it is outside versus putting it into fuel. Would there be times where the market is flooded or through some kind of protectionism that, dumping or whatever, that there'd be a surplus, which then would make it more viable to put it into the fuels? Or
so about 5 years ago, we had an early summer rain.
Yes.
So what happened was it was nearly ready to be harvested. Heavy rain
spoilt it,
and it didn't really affect the insides of the canola, but the outside's got mold on it, basically. And so the price of that canola just dropped. At some points, it was, for a farmer, it was more expensive to harvest than it was to what they would get back from the silos. So, so there is those anomalies, and if you had this system, you could actually benefit from it. Like, okay, we can't sell this crop. As a community, we can process fuel for the whole region. So
yeah, and just like instead of putting like normally when now and again I'm not that good at cropping and that, but number one, quality grain goes to market and bread and all that kind of stuff. Number two, quality goes into hays and other things for your animals. Well, this is an example where instead of that, just like your hay shed, you could be filling up your fuel shed for the next couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
how are you finding the take up for this kind of technology, or for how are people receiving it well?
So yeah, so I started this like venture back in 2006. Like that's when we first come up with the idea and started progressing it. So it's been a long journey. But yeah, so early days, there was a lot of interest. I wouldn't say uptake, but a lot of interest from farmers and communities about trying to reduce their carbon emissions. Because there was a big talks about, carbon tax, sustainability back then. And then that, faded away and people wouldn't stop caring, but it wasn't a friend of mine. So they didn't really see us as a nice to have sort of thing, not a must have. Yeah. So, and it's only probably in the last 2-3 years that mental shift of industry is forcing our way. So we got like the large, retail giants saying, we're going to be carbon neutral. Our supply chain is going to be carbon neutral. But they're not actually the ones that have to do anything about it. They make a pledge to their customers.
Make the farmers do it.
And make the transport companies do it.
Got it. So like, hey, we'll come up with this big plan. This is but it's like our fault, your problem.
Yeah. So for trucking companies, the only way at the moment to mitigate carbon emissions from their truck fleet is to buy carbon credits.
Got it. Are those carbon credits 20% dearer than biodiesel is over mineral diesel?
Depends on what you do. In Australia, it's hard because it's not very a big market at the moment because that trading scheme sort of like disappeared. But yeah, it's getting to that point of that 20 to 30% parity. So if you buy our fuel, which is 100% carbon offset already, that difference in price is, probably going to be less than what you're paying in carbon credits for.
How well do you think this is embraced in, for example, Europe or the United States or other big agro economies?
So America is a big one. They've been doing it for 20 years. Europe, very similar. And they've got a lot of mandates in for their, for their crops, but also mandates for fuel, sustainable fuels as well. Yep. So in America, they had a program where at the very beginning, it's like, okay, you build a 100 million litre facility in, Texas, say. All right. It's then the mandate for Texas is so much biodiesel per litre of diesel sold. So it might be 1%. Yep. Therefore, that producer of biodiesel is guaranteed to sell 100% of its production, no matter what the price is.
Well, at least there's demand. It's the first step. There's demand for it, which means there's a market.
Yeah. So, and that's what I guess the American government did was it legislated on the requirement of biodiesel in any mix based on its capacity to make that fuel.
Yes.
So some some areas don't have a mandate because they don't have a production facility.
Yeah.
So
Or if they're in the middle of the mountains, for example, and you can't grow canola out there or something.
yeah.
Yep.
So and now like Europe has just put a €6 rebate on sustainable fuels manufactured locally there.
Yeah.
So
But one of the big things that we talk about a lot, as we look at the ever-changing geopolitical situation, is Australia's national resilience, and what can biodiesel do for becoming more resilient as a nation? And because we always talk about the vulnerabilities of the shipping lanes through the South China Seas and through Singapore. Is this a potential solution for that, for diesel?
definitely, like, so let's just look at fuel reserves in Australia. We've got one working refinery in Australia.
Yep.
Most of it comes from Singapore or another Asian country, and we only have enough for, I think it's 3 days at the moment, supply.
Yeah, crazy.
So if we get isolated for longer than 3 days, we'll be on a fuel shortage. We'll be rationing our fuel. So being able to produce your own biodiesel locally, like offsets that need or to be reliant on overseas fuel, but also allows your community or state or even the whole of Australia to continue manufacturing, shipping things or moving things across borders, all that transport logistics stuff.
Mate, I've just I'm not meaning to correct you, but just Googled the days of supply for fuel. It is quite incredible. Only, where are we? Only 20 days of jet fuel, only 24 days of diesel, and only 28 days of petrol. This is like less than a month. This is pretty critical in terms of, if there was any kind of strategic, incident. How quick? Well, obviously there's the cropping component, but what about from an infrastructure or, again, using a refinery? How quick is it to ramp up production and to then have the infrastructure to process it?
Yeah. So for we can deploy one of our machines in 3 months.
Can you tell me more about your machine? Like, who's your machine suited to?
So, like I said, like, it's in a 20-foot shipping container.
Yep.
Put oil in one end, fuel comes out the other. So we really designed it for farmers, and then secondary as a regional fuel hub.
Yep.
So a community council go, okay, we'll get one and service that whole region for fuel. So like ours produces like 1.2 million liters a year. So
yeah, wow,
when you look at
liters.
So 1.2 million,
out of a 20-foot shipping container.
Yeah, and we can double that throughput in the same footprint.
Yep.
So
the waste reclamation part of this, are we currently? So, are you getting your hands on enough waste cooking oil, or is it something? What happens? Where does it go if you don't take it and convert it? Does it go to the tip, or? So
some of it goes to the tip, which is bad. Some of it gets into compost, which is not that great either. A large percentage gets put into stock feed.
Yeah.
So it's just energy. Like fat oils is just energy. You mix it with other non-energy material like chaff and then I feed it to cows and pigs.
Mate, this sounds like my brother used to work at a dog food factory, and they used to make these like twisties. All they do is get the twisty and then like spray meat spray on top of it, and that became the kibble. So I get it's the same kind of thing. They get something that is virtually inedible or has no nutrient value, and then just spray it with cooking oil. It just doesn't seem like, again, I'm sure it's fine, but it doesn't seem like that wholesome.
No. And I guess it's like from a customer, you don't know what you don't know, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, do I really want my cow to be fed on?
Well, it's all part of
You've,
it's all part of the greater food chain. It comes back to us
yeah,
either in, milk or beef anyway.
yeah.
Are you getting your hands on enough oil, or where are you from a capacity perspective of taking in at one end versus selling out the other end?
So we're not at capacity. Like we want 50 times much oil to
Yeah.
just to service the people that want fuel in Adelaide.
Yeah.
So
So right now, what kind of volumes, if anyone ever listens to this,
yeah,
and where are you getting this stuff from? Like, I know I'm joking around by saying fish and chip shops, but fair dinkum
yeah,
fish and chip shops.
yeah, yeah. Fish and chip shops, little cafes,
Anywhere with a deep
RSL,
fryer?
yeah, yeah, anything with that deep fry. So like, I got a bunch of RSLs. I supply oil to a couple of footy clubs, cricket clubs, um, the race course here, and a bunch of restaurants. So yeah, so I'm just slowly trying to build that base of restaurants and that, and who want to be more sustainable, who want that focus. So
But are you like the sludge man? You know, that
yeah,
turns up in the truck with all the rubber gloves and sludges it out.
yeah, it's similar, but not. We're a bit cleaner than that.
The
Yeah,
grease trap guy.
yeah, yeah. Grease trap's another bad thing, but yeah, it's not as bad as the grease trap waste. But yeah,
Well, I think it's really fascinating stuff. And when we're looking at the short-term implications of, yes, biofuel is dearer than mineral fuel at the moment. What's it going to take for, whether it be some kind of international incident which puts, spikes the world oil price. Again, when we're looking at the days of supply sitting in, the Australia's strategic, whatever you call it, capability, or just our reserves.
yeah,
Um, do you feel that we are behind the game on this, or we are progressing? Obviously, you've got a vested interest in
yeah. It's becoming more on the people's radar now than it has been, which is a good thing. Like the federal government announced, a couple of weeks ago, a $1.1 billion, you know, low carbon fuels initiative. So
Yep.
they're actually finally thinking about this as a process to zero carbon.
Yep.
Prior to that was always, hydrogen this, hydrogen that, electrification. But, we think like liquid fuels has this ability to do something now. We can worry
Mm.
about hydrogen and electrification when that technology gets to a point where it's suitable for BWs traveling from Melbourne to Sydney.
Yeah. And that's
Um,
the thing with a nation of ours. Ours is a nation of trucking. We're so spread out. We're so disparate. Stuff gets from A to B on the back of trucks.
yeah, and a lot of remote places still use diesel for pumps and bits and pieces. So that will still continue. There's a report earlier this year by the government, and it was trying to remember. They reckon it's going to be like 500 million liters of diesel still required once everything's been electrified. So,
Mm.
so there's still going to be this requirement for diesel, and if we can produce biodiesel and the other low carbon fuels to um, offset that mineral diesel, then we'll be able to get to that net zero um, without being stupid in other areas and buying credits from overseas from third world countries that are trying to do the same thing. So
We need a couple of these big miners out there who have got trains that pull kilometer long carriages
yeah,
full of iron ore. We need them. We need those trains pulled with biodiesel, mate.
yeah,
Right off some of the carbon emissions out of that.
yeah.
So, mate, what's the future for 34MJ? What have you got coming up on the horizon?
So we got we're doing a circular economy grant at the moment with green industries here in South Australia, trying to replicate our model that we got in Adelaide in a remote area. So
Yep.
that's our short-term goal at the moment. Our long-term, is to have multiple community fuel hubs around the nation, so they can service themselves using our technology. You mentioned Shannon before, so we've got a partnership going up in the Sunshine Coast. He's working with the Sunshine Coast Council to run a trial with on their fleet up there. So hopefully they'll kickstart later this year. And then the premise is, if that goes well, they'll happy to take a machine and start producing fuel themselves within a council. And Olympics on the horizon, carbon
Be a
neutral
great story.
Olympics. So it'll be
Be a great
a big
story.
opportunity.
Absolutely. If anyone's out there listening, who should be put in contact with you? Number one, anyone who's got waste cooking oil. What would be the minimum volume that you take? You're not going to take 500 mils from the fish and chips at home, but what's sort of a minimum quantity that you would want to extract or reclaim?
So we normally, like some of those small cafes we collect 20 liters a month.
Yep.
So if you're going through 20 liters drummer of oil a month, then give us a call. To some of our big clients, they're going through 200, 300 liters a week. So
yep. And this is not just about the old oil going out. It's about good quality oil going back in, plus a definitive contribution to the broader good of creating the biodiesel industry.
Yeah. So anyone that's any trucking company, any manufacturers that runs diesel forklifts that want to reduce their carbon emissions, give us a hoy and we can help you out.
Brilliant. Well, mate, really love having a yarn with this stuff. For some reason, I just feel that you're maybe ahead of your time. I don't know if Australia is not ready yet, or whether Australia should be, getting behind us. Like I said, we just had a quick look here, and we've got less than a month of fuel on the horizon. Where's it gonna come from if something happens? And what are we going to be able to do to keep our national resilience going? It doesn't take long for one flood or just a couple of days in central Queensland to all of a sudden block off these small communities from having stuff on the supermarket shelves.
Yeah.
What's it going to take one day if there's no diesel in the tanks or there's no diesel at the servos, to keep the nation ticking over?
Yeah, we saw that same issue in America with Hurricane Katrina. Took out Texas, right? So it affected us in Australia with low fuel supply, but they didn't have fuel for months after that because it just stopped that whole production. So something simple can. Well, mate,
it's a really fascinating conversation I've had with you today. So again, just want to confirm, if you're a user of a lot of diesel, whether it be trucking, farming, and you're interested in biodiesel and the advantages of it, get in touch with 34MJ. And conversely, if you're using a lot of oil, restaurants, cafes, whatever that may be, restaurants, and you want to get rid of it and you want a good quality product coming in, give 34MJ a crack. It sounds like a brilliant. I think you're onto something that just hasn't even burst yet. So I hope that the years and years and years of effort that you've put into this, that you'll be rewarded for one day.
Thanks, Pete.
And just the other thing I didn't realize, I just had a look there, mate. You tip 20 liters of mineral diesel on the ground, or you have a spill, you've got a mess. A literal environmental mess. You spilled 20 liters of biodiesel on the ground. It's gone in 5 days. Is that right?
Yeah. So it biodegrades very fast. So, it's so weird that, you have a lot of these marinas and that have it mandated,
Of
biodiesel.
course,
Because
boats, water. Yeah.
like if it gets into the water, like it doesn't affect marine life. It totally degrades in 30 days to no signs. So yeah, there's a
Seems
lot
like a
of
no-brainer.
yeah,
It just
yeah.
seems like a
Sometimes
no-brainer. Well, mate, thanks for having us on and having a yarn today. Morgan Hunter from 34MJ. And again, one of the really interesting businesses out of the veteran business community. I love seeing, businesses that are innovative, they're on the cutting edge and really setting the future. So, and that's what I think 34MJ is all about. So, mate, thanks for joining us and having a yarn today.
nice. Thanks for having me, mate.
Our pleasure. All right, my name's Pete Liston. Let's wrap the VBC podcast there for today. I'll have Morgan's LinkedIn as well as his business website, so that if you are interested or you know anyone that could either use biodiesel or wants to get rid of their cooking oil and get some fresh stuff, let him know. So my name's Pete Liston. Thanks for having a listen today. Out.